Good. Thank you very much, Saul. Brilliant.
I'll interject for our good friend Peter Smith, who I'm wearing a McGill hat today to recognize Peter's retirement from McGill after 42 years. Terrific guy. And on topic, one of the things that he uses, one of the tools he uses with his players, is to always talk to them about when the coaches are giving you feedback to the player. Try not to focus on, is it positive or is it negative? Try to focus on, is it useful? And he really finds that helpful with all the female teams he worked for. And I really like it because, as Saul has mentioned, it's kind of an open thing. It's like it takes in the fact that this isn't personal. This doesn't mean you're a bad person. Is it useful? Can it help you be a better player? That's the bottom line. So I really like that from Peter. And as you were talking, Saul, it took me back because last year and you're probably aware of the YouTube and the TED Talk things with the Boston Philharmonic guy Xander and the Art of Possibility. It's quite. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. You'd love it. Just Google, I think, the Art of Possibility on YouTube. It's terrific, and it's just all about his positive approach to drawing his musical students into becoming better musicians. Really, really inspiring thing again to watch, and I really like Willie's sort of drawing the players and the team together as one, or acknowledging both the ultimate team goal, which we all must sacrifice for, but all of the individual goals within the team that we all want to strive for. And by agreeing to work towards both, they're all agreeing that there's all kinds of different things at play, and we just all want to be the best we can be, period. And then we get back to Claire Drake, and that's his big thing. So really good. But you should look at it. If you haven't seen it, Saul, you'll love it. It's really terrific.
Okay.
I was just going to add one more thing about when you said biggest mistakes coaches make. It just jumped in my head because now that I'm mentoring coaches, I always tell coaches to write it down, like to track when you have conversations with players or instances where we as coaches, sometimes we're like, oh, did I say that right? Or how did they receive it? I encourage all the minor hockey coaches I work with, like I still use like little notebooks like this, like the 10 centers, because you can have a practice plan, but you need to have a notebook where you're tracking these things. Because I think when you're giving feedback or there's I call them like a sandpaper situation, it gets very emotional, and the way the player might feel about it might be, oh, Kim yelled at me 20 times. Well, no, Kim yelled at you once, and Kim wrote down when she yelled at you. And not that you would necessarily like fact check the players, but I found in instances when I've had those challenging situations, when I take out the notebook and I say, actually, we had this conversation on December 10th, and when we talked about it, it went this way. So I encourage the coaches, like it can be much bigger than that, parents acting in a certain way, or something that's a lot more visible to everyone else. But that's for the minor hockey coaches. I feel like often, little things become big things really quickly, and they can't pinpoint, well, I don't remember when that parent first emailed me or first yelled at me in the parking, so that it's not exciting. It doesn't have any like tag to it, but I do think I see a lot of minor hockey coaches, the emotion gets to them. I guess that goes with the excessive emotionality because they don't track these little instances. Both, I'm thinking more on you can use it with your husband too. Tell Billy you're welcome. But I do think it's useful, and I know from our association standpoint, we always encourage coaches, if you are sending an email or having these sandpaper moments, to save them all. Not because you're not necessarily it's going to be a lawsuit, but it does give you something to stand on in a conversation starter. So I think that's that's my, I'm no Saul Miller, but that's one of the things that I often share with all the minor hockey coaches how important it is to write it down, especially in those situations where you just don't sleep well because you're not sure whether you approached it the right way.
And it's tough. Listen, I mean, you know, we respond sometimes emotionally when people do things. And sometimes we say things, I mean, that we're, you know, sorry for having said. So, yeah, that's just life. And yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Wally.
I just wanted to mention, Saul, years ago, there's a theory coaching program in Canada, and I was involved. I took those courses because I learned a lot from them. The best one I ever took was Theory 3, and of course you have to be credited with Theory 4 to be an Olympic coach. But in the Coach 2 program, when I worked with Dave King, we prepared a module that's been inserted into Coach 2, which I think might be the equivalent of Development 1 in Canada, which would be AAA double minor hockey, competitive hockey. And it was a record yourself, listen to yourself, and break down your feedback. And we provided a sheet. And to me, it should be a mandatory task in hockey for Development 1. And if you record yourself, and if you can video record yourself, because your body language and is important. And we used to break it down. I used to call it positive specific, positive general, negative specific, negative general. But I changed the negative to constructive, where you're providing instruction. And then a negative category would be, you know, the yelling, the body language, the connotation of how you come across. Once they do that, they see themselves. And it's good to take notes after, but this means do it one time, and it can be absolutely changing. So that task is something that I would recommend to the authorities who set up courses to mandate for competitive coaches moving forward to record themselves, break themselves down. And I've played with this mentoring coaches and done it with a AAA midget coach. He didn't need the exercise. He was 90% positive, 50% specific, 40%. But one of his assistants was a screamer and a yeller. And so together, we did the exercise, and he wore a mic on the ice and recorded himself at practice. And the assistant coach who was yelling, the staff actually said, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it?" And it had a really good effect on the staff and the yeller. Just the fact he did it. Why was he doing it? And about 1 month of excellent non-negative coaching, screaming and yelling. And then he started to go back, the assistant did, to his old ways. So I had the head coach just put the mic on. Don't even record yourself. Just put the mic on to heighten the awareness of what are you doing it for. And that worked in that specific situation. So I wonder if Daryl Sutter would record himself and break down his feedback, or any NHL coach. At what point would that be beneficial for them?
Paulie, I think developmental coaching, it would be really interesting if the associations would videotape coaches, because a lot of times coaches don't realize in the emotion of the game how they're it's different in the dressing room, but how they are on the bench. I mean, I know I had a situation years ago with a soccer mom was very, very upset with the coach, yelling at the kids as much, and particularly her kid. And I said, videotape it. I mean, that was easy in soccer, you know, you're just on the sideline, because often people don't realize what they look like. So I think, recording people, I think if we did some role playing with coaches, part of a coaching development thing where, okay, I want you to imagine you're really upset. This player has done this. How would you talk to them? What would you say to them? I mean, get some role playing going. I mean, see if that's a useful tool. But that requires some structure. I think just having leagues videotaping coaches at times would give coaches some interesting feedback. Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob. You've been waiting.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dr. Miller, when you talk about the accountability and the responsibility, when coaches are dealing with the younger athletes, where their biggest influences from home, or a big influences from home, they don't drive cars, they come late, they leave early because family commitments, they go on Christmas vacation because the family's going on Christmas vacation. How do you go about instilling, and you're going to have to start with the parents, I guess, this accountability and responsibility, because this is going to carry through into their later years. What's the approach?
I think that you set some rules about being on time. I mean, the problem, as you mentioned, going away for the Christmas holidays and stuff like that, that's problematic because it's not the kid's decision, it's the parent's decision. But certainly, Bob, in terms of being on time, the door at that time and you don't get in. And, the kids learn right away and the parents learn too if they get the kids there late. I mean, you have to hold people, maybe when you're forgiving, and then another time that, you won't play tonight, you were late. Or you're going to miss a period because you were late, or you're going to miss two periods, whatever it is. I think you set up those rules and the kids learn what they are. I coached baseball because my son was a baseball player. And I remember in Little League, the kids had no idea what things that they say to each other. And, the kid would go up to bat and they'd say, "Hey, Joey, don't strike out." I said, wait a minute. Why are you saying that? "I want to get up." I said, "So you say, Joey, get a hit. If you're going to say, Joey, strike out again, you're out of the game." And in a short period of time, they became a little, not transformed completely, but a little more conscious of what they were saying. You have to, and if the kid would say it again, and you said to them, if you do it again, you're going to be out of the game, then you have to take them out of the game. And then they learn that what you're saying is so. But I mean, I think a big problem, Bob, is with parents.
Right.
And, it's funny because this is a story. I mean, years ago, there was a player who, with the Canucks, who was talking at a Christian summer camp. He was a kind of Christian-inspired athlete, and he was talking at a summer camp to kids, and he gave the talk. And afterwards, somebody asked him how he got along with his coach, and he kind of glossed over it. He had a real problem with the coach. And so this woman, a mom, came up to him afterwards, and she said, "I don't know you, but I think you have a real problem with that coach, and I think that you should pray for him." So he thought, "Oh my God, I can't stand the guy. The guy doesn't play. He won't." He said he had such a problem with the coach that he could not look at him. When the coach was in the dressing room, this is in the NHL, he'd have to look away. Coach didn't respect him at all. But he said, the woman said that, so he started to pray for him. And he said he prayed for him every day. He said a prayer. And by the end of the summer, when he came back for the next season, he didn't feel so bad about the coach. And actually, the coach continued to mistreat him a little bit. There were injuries happened, and he got to play. He ended up being a leading scorer in the NHL, this guy. So I used to work with this kids team in Kelowna, and the guy who fly me up to work with his Bantam kids, Josh Georges at the time was one of the kids on that team. He was a wonderful guy. And anyway, one day he called me up and he said, Saul, I got to quit coaching. I cannot stand some of the parents. There's this one parent, he is just so abusive. He thinks his kid is a future NHLer. He was coaching like Pee Wee or Bantam. And he said, he just negative, negative. I can't stand it. And I said, his name was Bob. I said, Bob, and I told him the story. I said, maybe you should pray for the kid, for the parent. He said, pray for that son of a gun. There's no way I pray for him. And unfortunately, he quit coaching. So sometimes you're dealing with parents who just have, they want their kid to have every opportunity, and yet they're not supporting the team's program, and they're unreasonable. I think you have to set some rules, and unfortunately, some of the kids will end up missing out a little bit because of the behavior of their family, but basically the kids will learn that in this context, there are certain rules that the team operates by. You have to be on time. You have to, we don't put each other down in the room, positive on the bench. These things are a thing.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, Saul. But like, you have to have your association that's going to back you as well. You're trying to set these guidelines as to what you want to go by. And unfortunately, these behaviors are learned, and these kids, as they get a little older, it becomes a bigger challenge for coaches as they get into like elite competition. I mean, you try to. It's almost getting now where coaches are picking teams based on parents, on which parents they want to have and which parents they don't want to have. And it's not based on the ability of the kid. And unfortunately, the kids are learned behavior from their parents. I don't know. I think it's an issue that has to be addressed somehow. We have a playground behind us here, and how I see parents and kids interact, it's unbelievable. Kids leave their bicycles at the park. Parents come down and get them, take them home. This is where it starts, and where does it end?
Bob, I just, sorry to interrupt, but I think for 3 years we've been talking about this, Saul.
Yeah.
And Hockey Canada is not stupid. They've created a code of conduct, but it's just sort of glossed over quickly. And not many people can deliver the standards of the behavior consistently so that the parents understand and the players understand. But the code of conduct, if you have the leadership qualities, works. Rick Puttock's an advocate of that. He can deliver it. The mission statement exercise that Kim has done makes them understand, why are they playing hockey? Why do you want your kid to play hockey? And you have to appreciate the life skills that go into being the best you can be. And that mission statement exercise, in my mind, will help reinforce the code of conduct you have to deliver on. Because coaches have to take the lead in terms of the ethics of what they do. And I think they can. So there's hope down the road, and we're spending time on that one. But we're sort of spinning the wheel and asking the same question for a number of years, and hopefully it'll be attended to sooner and later. There are a number of agencies working with sports governing bodies formally on this, and I'll be having a conference call with a sports law group that deals with the associations, like the leadership group in Canada, in all sports. And they're talking about this kind of thing amongst themselves, but they're not talking about it at the grassroots level. And what do you do at the grassroots where kids are starting? So I'm looking forward to that conference call on Monday. Go ahead, Saul.
No, I'm just thinking what Bob said. I mean, sometimes you're going to get a coach who really is appropriate, and he or she is trying to get it organized. This is what we're going to do. If you're late, you're going to sit out or whatever. And the parents get very, very upset. They go to the association. They don't back the coach. That kind of thing is really bad. When you get a coach who is really trying to set some standards and some rules, and parents get upset that it's not fair, my kid didn't play, they were only in the association
Yep.
Chess does as the
So
coach.
the mission statement exercise, when you do it with the parents and players, creates a values-based purpose of what they're doing, and it's reinforced all year. And those coaches recruit parents to get on that executive board in minor hockey, to run the board the right way for the right reason. And I think Kim has been working in Lee's side. They already have created a pretty positive culture, a value-based culture, which in the end will achieve amazing outcomes and amazing results. But it's the life skills leading to hockey skills, leading to success that this whole thing is all about. Now, Tim Taylor, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so I coach a tier 2 in the younger levels, and so like Bob was saying, the kids don't drive to the rink, obviously. What what I always like to get the parents to do is at least commit to letting the coaches know, if their kid's going to miss a practice or a game in advance. But and sometimes they don't, and sometimes I think we're a little unrealistic to think that if we just mention it one time that'll fix the issue. It's kind of like, little Johnny has a bad hockey habit and he does it in a game, and you'll hear a coach say, "Why are you doing that? We worked on that last week." And it's like, yeah, you worked on it last week. You're going to have to work on it between now and March too. So I think we, and this is a problem I have. I just have to be a little more persistent and more patient to get because you're talking about changing somebody's behavior, quite honestly. But the other thing I was going to mention, Wally, is our team for this coming year was just selected earlier in the week. I'm not going to be the head coach. I'll be an assistant, hopefully. And assuming that I am, we're going to see if we can get the coaches and the team to do a mission statement and see if we can get the season off on the right track.
Go ahead, Tom. You've been waiting, I think, patiently. Then Kim. Oh, your mic's off, Tom. Sorry. Still off. You double clicked.
Okay. Yeah, about the parents.
How
I
do you
was
guys?
working with one pro player, and he played Div 1 at Yale. And anyways, when I was in Salzburg, we needed a left winger, and he's like, this kid is 6'2", really good. And I recommended him to Pierre Paget, and Gene Riley called the college and all this kind of stuff. And his problem was his dad was calling the coaches all the time, saying who his kid should be playing with and all this kind of stuff. And he, this guy never did anything wrong. But his dad was always, even, he was like in his 20s now. And then, so we didn't take him because of that. And I helped him get to Finland. And his dad continued to do it. And he was phoning the coaches and the GM in Finland who he should be doing this. And he got that his kid was basically banned in Scandinavia. And the guy was good. Like, he skated with the Flames in the one of those camps, and he did really well out there. But he kind of ended his hockey career. And I helped him get into one of these high-level business schools. I think that's Chicago Booth or something. But anyway, he was doing really well. But he was a hell of a hockey player, and I think he could have been a third, fourth liner in the NHL, but his dad just wouldn't stop. So that's a damage parents can do.
Yikes. Kim, go ahead.
I just had a quick story to relate. I may have shared this before, but Saul might appreciate it on feedback about, recording yourself or that sort of thing. So a couple of years ago, I coached with another woman who's very similar personality to me. We're very sarcastic and we talk with our hands and we're very